the online world. And those kids who were comfortable and healthy in the physical world were also comfortable and healthy in the online world. And that's a big takeaway for all of us because we focus so much on the masses, and oftentimes we forget that minority group that really does need the attention, whether it's online. If it's offline, it's also online. It's one world for them, and the dangers are just as much. But Marian also said something else, which is they should, meaning the government should do A, B, and C. Adam, I know you focus a lot on what the government does there inside the Beltway in Washington. What scares you? Now I'm going to ask the opposite question. What scares you about the government?
Well, just generally speaking.
And what doesn't?
Sure. Well, generally speaking, what concerns me are the more heavy-handed regulatory approaches that try to adopt some sort of a single silver bullet technical approach. And what encourages me is the fact that we've suddenly started shifting away from that in recent years and moving towards a different approach based on education. And the education, media literacy, digital citizenship approach is finally starting to take hold in Washington. We've had legislation that's either passed or is currently pending in Congress in recent sessions that would basically do things like fund more online safety and media literacy programs, or would devote grants to programs that are focused on decreasing cyberbullying and cyber harassment online, or finding ways to get more instructors into classrooms at the state and local level to talk to kids the same way we've had DARE programs for many years, have someone come in and talk to them about sensible online, safe and sensible online interactions. So we're starting to see a subtle but important shift in public policy away from the sort of regulatory bucket of fixes towards an educational bucket. And I don't know if that means the regulatory approaches are going away, because clearly, Hemu, you and I have been focused on a lot of those in recent years, efforts to do things like mandate online age verification, requirements about mandatory sort of rating schemes or labeling schemes. There's mandatory filtering requirements, lots of different sort of regulatory tweaks. My problem with each of those is that that a lot of lawmakers seem to think that that's going to ultimately solve a problem that technology was never intended to really address. And frankly, it's no substitute for interaction, especially at the parental level, but also with educators, mentors, social workers, especially for that at-risk group, which is so, I mean, our Harvard study, that's what we found is the toughest nut to crack, is what about the kids in broken homes who are really in trouble? You know, they go out online seeking understanding, loving relationships that they're not getting in their home, and they find themselves in really, really bad circumstances or situations. Those are the kids we've got to find ways to get to, and technology is not going to solve that problem.
So you were, how much time? Why don't we do a couple minutes if there's in the audience, because I know sometimes you all have a lot of questions you get that 1 minute to ask. So we can spend time doing that. If there's not, I'll just keep going. So raise your hand if you have questions. Go ahead.
Carol mentioned the digital footprint. If you need to swipe the footprint, what are the options? Is there an option?
Turn the computer off, throw it away?
No, because
the footprint remains.
it remains. I mean, Google, many services, they archive all of this, right? You have a driving record, and yes, you go to traffic school to get the points off, but it's there historically. I think that's why having that conversation with your family, and I say family because we as adults are not so savvy about this as well, about the permanency and the instantaneousness, the fact that whatever you put out there can instantly be broadcast and will be permanent. No matter, even if you work really hard, and I love the fact that both MySpace, Facebook, they all have policies to take content down, but there are records of this that are often kept in other places. Very difficult to do. So that's why that conversation, maybe you have some...
Really quick, I think I generally agree with all of that, that we need to take preemptive steps to make sure that certain types of things aren't put online first and foremost with our kids. But once they're up, they are hard to get down. In the extreme cases, there are steps you can take, some legal, some technical, to try to deal with it. There are companies like Reputation Defender that you can
They're
contact.
in the room, in case you're wondering.
Okay.
Raise your hand.
How about that plug? I was not paid to say that. But
he's just getting paid later on.
I will be paid later. No, the point is that there are services like that and others that you can contact to help, or you can try to contact sites directly yourself and ask to take certain types of
And
content
I will tell
down.
you, when we do get that call, we respond quickly. We don't do the, well, you put it up, too bad for you. We don't do that. We say, okay, you don't want it, it's coming down, period. So I saw a hand over here. Right there.
Yeah, let me speak to that. I think that is an important consideration, and it's one of the things, I think the barriers for a lot of parents is the feeling that the kids know more. We took that into consideration, just a little plug for the online family.norton. Should a child try to defeat it, an alert would go to the parent. And the benefit of that alert is that should be a moment for you to come in and say, hey, I noticed that the alert, the system is not functioning and that you tampered with it, what's going on? And that should hopefully lead to a conversation. Now, not every family's going to it's just going to be, one time and you'll restore it and then everything will be great. But look, the whole idea is that the parental control should be giving you insight into your child's online activities, but also helping you guide what they're doing.
And really, just to put it in perspective, Adam said he ran out the back and went 20 acres down after he was told he's not allowed to leave the yard. It's really the same thing in that sense. And what happens if he ever does get busted? He gets grounded, he gets caught, he gets a discussion. It's what I think you're hearing from the panelists, and I think all of them have actually said this, is you have to have that dialogue and that discussion. Yeah?
One of the things, I talk about this a lot, and one of the things that's important for the parents to realize that any parent should not ask the rest of the if you have, your kids have asthma, they should get it out. What are the things that we encourage parents to do to the parents that need to be asthma?
Yes.
Don't realize, but it's being taught that you turn that on,
Yes.
so that you install it,
Uninstall it, yeah.
I would add to that consoles. Believe it or not, there is the concept of an adult on a console and a child account on a console, be that an Xbox, a Wii, or a PlayStation.
Yeah.
So I would also caution you that on that Christmas morning when they unwrap that console, don't hand it to them.
What does console mean?
I'm sorry, game console, video game console, a Wii or a PlayStation 3 or an Xbox, as I mentioned, and don't let them set up the console. You should set up the console, because that's when you have the opportunity to differentiate between an adult and child account.
Yeah, and
I
in fact, what really happens in the house after Christmas and the presents are wrapped, what are the parents doing? They're throwing away the wrappers and they're saying, I'm glad that's over, right? And they're saying, go, 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 play. We got you this really cool game. And then
Right.
the kids unwrap and off it goes.
I just wanted to comment, it's not just, so Windows has the whole user administration. Macs, your kids can surf anywhere as well. So just because you're using a Mac doesn't mean you're safe. So I also encourage parents, families to look at safety on the Mac. We have a product from Trend for the Mac, but there are others as well.
Back of the room, somebody keeps raising their hand. Go ahead.
But I wanted to ask you how do you feel about up top of social kind of insights into the role of adults?
So I have a few things to say about that. I think this is an exciting development. I think there are a lot of new sort of walled garden type sites. Some call them cyber playpens for kids. And they're geared more towards younger kids. What I think helps keep kids safe, especially younger kids safe in some of those sorts of sites, is that they greatly limit functionality. In fact, they cripple it. There's only certain types of interactions or communications allowed, for example, on Club Penguin. Okay, so the more extreme versions of it would have, no adults allowed at all, and then you get into questions about verification and how you go about doing that, and that's a tricky thing. And I would ask anybody who's interested in that field to understand that there is no foolproof method probably of keeping every adult out, and you better ask yourself before you trust your kid to go into a place that say it's just kids only, that there are some trusted adults around paying attention to what's going on. Because what I fear is that sometimes you have this sort of cyber Lord of the Flies kind of scenario where you sort of just put the kids on an island and let them figure it out. Well, that's not a good idea. I actually want adults around in some environments paying